Do you find yourself looping in this kind of, I want to do what my values are, but then I'm really hoping I'm getting a ton of likes and I really want to make sure that people like me to, oh, but I've got to get back to my values. These loops seem to keep coming up over and over again, especially as an anxious high achiever. Hi, I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions, and this week we are looking at networking, following my book, Key Steps to Live a Happier and Healthier Life, Interpersonal Effectiveness. We're looking at how we can be more grounded and more connected to our purpose and how to get other people to be connected into our purpose and buy into what it is that we want to achieve. And so I keep finding these feedback loops, these triangulations, and it really came into a head today. And I keep doing these videos on similar things and realizing that I'm doing them on similar things. And so watch out. I think a book is coming as I explore these further. And so back in around Christmas time, at the end of the year, as we were preparing for New Year's resolutions, I did a video and a blog, so go check both of them out, called The Language of Discipline. I'll put the links in the video description. And the language of discipline said that we have shame and guilt around something. And so we say, oh, I do not have a good relationship with this. And so we say, I need to be more strict. And as we say, I need to be more strict, what do? We restrict, right? We cut out all carbs. We decide to only drink cabbage soup. We decide to go to the gym. We're going to work out every day. We cut out all alcohol. Like, we really restrict in what we do. But what happens is we want to cut off all relationships to something that does not serve us and is causing us distress and shame and guilt in our use with it because we don't feel like we're moderating it. And so as life happens and chaos happens, we realize how little power we have and no willpower that we have. So we just dive right in to the tornado. We just get lost in all the chaos and we succumb ourselves, finding out and realizing that we have no control and finding ourselves back in a place of greater shame and guilt. This idea that we really do not have any control and we sit in an avoidance state, and that's shame and guilt. And so looking at this, I realized that we have internal and external validation loops. And actually greater than that, if we really look at the big picture, we realize that we have, that this really is about internal locus of control, this perceived control that we have of trying to really take on a situation. Moving to an external locus of control, well, it doesn't even matter. I could do everything, I could do nothing. I'm just bumping into life. And then going back up to what really feeds us are those 5 universal constructs. So stay tuned. I'm still exploring these theories. And I've got a lot, like I said, I think this is going to be a book because it really comes around a lot. And that negative dynamic that I talk about, it's these feedback loops are layers in that negative dynamic. And I talk about the universal constructs, and we have to shut those doors. I talk about this with my therapy client. We've got to shut those doors to the universal constructs because they're open, we're exposed, we're defending, we're protecting, and we can't be present because there's such an internal battle happening. These feedback loops, I think, is what we're going to find is what is opening those doors and how we shut them. So stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. I am very excited about that project, but it's got to come a little bit later because we've got a lot of things that are on the horizon that we're about to release in the here and now. So subscribe and stay tuned. It's going to be great. When it comes to networking, I really wanted to focus on the feedback loop of internal and external validation. So as we are trying to perform and be successful, we're looping in that perceived expectation of what success is. And as we loop in that perceived expectation of what success is, what we're doing is we're pulling up our own shoulda, couldas, and what ifs. And as those are coming up and those anxious thoughts are coming up, we're realizing that we have to be the ones, like we must perform and do the things. So we connect into this perceived sense of agency or control. And the wake of perceived control is chaos. It's coming. We try to contrive these ideas of what success would be and what we can do. And this is also the I went back and did maybe a month and a half ago, I did the 3 P's that prevent performance. Performance is the killer of success is the blog. So go look at that, and I'll have the article and video description or video link in the video description. So go and look at that. But what we have is the 3 P's. Performance anxiety, perfectionism, and procrastination are all looped together. It's a part of this. And so we start with the perfectionism, right? I must curate the perfect post. I must have the perfect business plan. I must have the perfect audience. And so we're in this planning phase of perfectionism, which is actually procrastinating as well, because a mini loop is happening as we are seeking perfectionism. We're also fear of success and fear of failure is like coming up. Self-sabotage and scarcity mindset are all happening. And so we go back into procrastination, and then we come back up to perfectionism, and then go back into procrastination. This performance anxiety. And so as we're sitting in performance anxiety, trying to perform, but the anxiety is kind of holding us back from that performance, we start to realize what our willpower is and what our internal capacity is, and we start leaning towards this external validation. And the external validation says, well, if I put a little bit out and people respond to it, then I'll put a little more out, and so people can respond to it. But when people don't respond to it, then I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to go back into my shoulda, coulda, and what ifs. Right? And then I'm going to try to do a little bit, but I'm going to be really anxious, and then I'm going to ask for external validation. And when I don't get it, I'll stay here. When I do, I'll just continue to binge on the external validation. And so that is these loops that we get in. We want to be internalized, but there's so much shoulda, couldas, and anxious thoughts that do it. We feed the anxious thoughts, and then we put our one toe in the sand, hoping that that external validation will keep us moving. But remember, external validation is creating just an emptiness inside. It's just a void in a space. And the void gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more that you seek that external validation. I get a lot of emails, and I appreciate the people who watch and are looking to gain a business client on the SEOs. And like, you've done like 300 videos and you've got like 60 subscribers. This is sad and pathetic for you. And I don't see it that way. I don't, because I'm not looking for 1 million followers. I'm looking to put out words. My intention for this is to help people find connection. And yes, I could probably do something to build a connection, but it's not about the followers. It's not about the likes. It's about creating a space for people to be able to utilize it when it's time. And this may not be the time. And again, I'm sowing seeds. I'm not finding my harvest. I'm just sowing seeds. And I actually have a lot that we're going to do, and I can't wait to share that with you. I'm telling you, a lot of projects on the horizon, that all of those seeds sown, I see where it's going to take me. And it's not necessarily through subscribers. It's not necessarily through likes, but there's a bigger core. So if you see the growth that I've had since June when I did my first video to now it is April, you see that there's a growth. And if you read my books, Key Steps to Live a Happier and Healthier Life, you realize that I followed those books, that I didn't just write them, but I used them. And you see the growth that I have as I become more organized and more thoughtful and intentional in what I am producing. And that natural alliance, although it's not a part of an algorithm, I do have faith will create what it needs to create. And so that's the point. It's not about external validation. It's doing what gives you joy and value. And this gives me a lot of joy and value. I am a lifelong learner, and being able to focus on 4 topics a week related to something that I'm very passionate about, which is my ability to serve others and understand and help them understand what the brain is and how we can be more successful interacting in life by maximizing on what the neuroscience is, to go with like-minded, anxious high achievers and help them to develop social and emotional intelligence and coach them to maximize, because anxiety is a good thing. It moves you forward. It motivates you. The person who invented the wheel was an anxious person. It's a good thing. But what happens is we get too in our heads and it holds us back. And so the whole purpose of this series, the whole purpose of my channel is to see where's that line where the anxiety is holding you back, and how do we maximize that line so that you're just on the other side and you're just cranking on using that anxiety to push you forward. And so how we do this is we change our language, we reframe. We find balance, empowerment, and intention. As we move from an external validation that's not going to give us anything, and we move to a more purpose-driven life. Balance, empowerment, intention. And when we're deep in an anxious cycle, start with an intention. Start building a pattern, a discipline of how you want to respond to things. Build those atomic habits. And as you are intentional, you naturally remember the negative cycle, right? A distressing thought, feeling, and behavior creates avoidance, short-term relief, long-term anxiety growth, and then lack of capacity, lack of value, lack of motivation. And when we ground and neutralize and just kind of sit with this doesn't feel comfortable, it doesn't feel comfortable, that's the anxiety, that's the depression, that's the trauma and low self-worth. We breathe through it. It's called somatic breathing, right? And they almost, basically what they're doing is, in somatic breathing, is causing your body to intentionally go through the acts of what a panic attack is. And what it does is it releases the negative energy. And whatever it is, if it's Lamaze breathing, somatic breathing, which is similar, what you're doing is you're actively engaging in a present moment, and you are implicitly giving yourself capacity, value, a sense of agency and control, universal construct, and motivation to want to do better. So taking that time to be present and grounded, and that's your first intention, is just kind of sit with the discomfort, lean into the discomfort. And then as you find that presence, that capacity comes, that's when you take one step towards the positive cycle. Don't look at the outcome, look at the process. What seed can I plant right now? We talked yesterday about the spring season, and these what ifs are our spring, and how we can ground in the here and now to let go of those what ifs and live in the present. A what if is an anxious cycle. It's just pulling you right back in. Stay present, stay grounded, breathe through the discomfort and find one baby step, 1 millimeter inch forward of living towards what your values are and going back to what your values are. And as you live and make and understand and connect to what your values are, set an intention. My value is this, so I'm going to do one thing. My value is friendships and socialization and community. So I choose to call a friend every day, right? Something small. Text a friend every day. Send one meme. I really want to. I have a unique niche that I did not curate. It is not marketed, but I do really well with like 50-year-old white men who are technically highly anxious, have never been diagnosed with anxiety, but their wives are over the controllingness, right? You've gone in and anxiously like prepared everything in your life. This is what we will do and this is the way. And you've crushed every relationship as a result because you did not have the bandwidth to be present and allow people to have ownership of space. And as we work through all of that, wives, please send your husbands to me. I promise. Like I create happier, healthier relationships by allowing them to see that this is anxiety, that all that planning, although it made you a CEO, although it made you incredibly successful, and you were able to give such a beautiful life to your family, what you did is you shut them out and you focused on these kind of, I find that many of these men kind of have like a laundry list. Like, to be a good husband, I need to provide, a nice home and a good life for my family. I need to be able to kind of give them these things. I need to work hard. Like, they kind of have like a checklist of 3 things that they do, and then that's it. And that checklist has nothing to do with how other people define them as being successful in whatever role that you're in. So it's an interesting facet, but what it does is they're blocking, right? And so what we're doing is we're opening up and we're finding what our values are. And when they're blocking, they're crushing their relationships with their kids. And so I tell them, like, it doesn't have to be anything extreme, or it doesn't have to be extreme, but like, just like, if you want a relationship with your daughter and that is the value that you have, then text her every day consistently. Let her know that every morning you're going to say, "Good morning, hun." Or every afternoon you're going to say, "Good night, I hope you had a good day." Or you text her just a meme or something. But that consistency is how you're going to build a relationship that has been crushed because of your own anxious mind trying to control things. And there's a lack of trust there. And so that discipline, staying consistent, connecting to what your values are, doing one small thing intentionally related to your values will empower you, give you the capacity, give you the value, give you the motivation to want to keep doing more. And that balance, in the language of discipline, that balance is just staying the course, continuing to be mindful of your intention, your behaviors of what you do, and your capacity to get it done. Those are the things we are connecting to. And as we release these perfectionist patterns, because we're actively engaged in behavioral activation, as we understand and build the capacity, we're letting go of that tension, and we are able to be more present for ourselves and for others. This is all outlined in my book, so please go take a look. Key Steps to Living a Happier and Healthier Life, Part 1, is a life worth living. It's a framework of success. We identify what those values are. We look at the atomic habits and that discipline and how to enact in those values. We start to look at decision making and critical thinking so that we're making the key decisions and grabbing that willpower to be successful. And then we're looking at all the things that pull us away from success, pull us into that perfectionistic procrastination triangle, and how to stay more present and balanced in those decisions. In part 2, we're doing emotional regulation and emotional resiliency. So we're looking at our emotional self and how we are pulling away from the present, creating these perceived realities that is encapsulating us into that trauma, that lack of, and the whole negative dynamic, that whole universal construct, that need for perceived control, the 3 P's that prevent performance, and how we are trapped and encapsulated in this. And the networking gives us the ability to get out of it. Part 1 and part 3 get us out. Part 2 is really the awareness. Awareness, acceptance, action. Part 1 is really the awareness. Part 3 is part 2 is the awareness. Part 3 is the acceptance. And part 1 is the action. And I put part 1 in action first because let's face it, I'm leaning into my population. They want action. They want outcomes. So we kind of see what we need to do. Then we start seeing where we're falling short and we're not following what it is, and that shoulda, coulda comes in. So we do emotional resiliency, right? I just feel like I'm sitting in this shoulda, coulda. What am I doing? Well, go to emotional resiliency. Go figure out all your invalidating environment. Go figure out the trauma bonds that you built that's keeping you stuck in these patterns. Learn the negative dynamic that you are doing when you're interacting with others. And then go find acceptance. Like, oh, well, I have to own my side of the street, and I just learned my side of the street. But now I see, like, other people have the same stuff going on. I'm not alone. I'm totally validated. Like, they're doing the same things. And now that I am grounded and I can sit back and become an observer, I can see these patterns happening in others as well. And I can just sit back and be like, oh, I was you. Oh, I was you. And I'm not going to project, or I'm not going to interject. I'm just going to be present and learn that power of neutral and maximize by understanding what I want, pulling from my step 1 or my part 1 success intentions and goals. And now I'm implementing them because now I am grounded. I am responding, not reacting. And now I can see the power and agency that I have. So I can use my part 1 stuff to now link with others and really create a success-driven life. And this is how we live a happier, healthier, more purpose-driven life, is using all of these key steps. And they're all impactful in their own separate ways, but together it makes you unstoppable. I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. Thank you so much. Happier and healthier life together, one step at a time.